Welcome to The Lost Signals Discusses Film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzur-Ramosi Thurlow scale,
or MOTS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Hello there, and welcome back to The Lost Signals Reviews Film and Television. And tonight, my cheeky darlings, we're doing the new Guy Ritchie joint, The Gentleman. Which, yes, go on. You're gonna make fun of my British accent.
Never.
But that's my Cockney version. Anyways, yes, The Gentleman, new Guy Ritchie film. I, of course, am your local hoodlum, Scott Thurlow, here with my back either consigliares who are gonna betray me, or some rival gang I've never even heard of, Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Jog on, you bloody wanker.
Christopher Morgan.
Salute.
And Stephen Amosi.
Hi, Governor.
Yes. And all right, so with that, I believe E has a good logline for this one.
The new Guy Ritchie film, Guy Ritchie style film, written and directed by Guy Ritchie.
Yes, exactly. And why don't you also, when you're done drinking your pint, tell us about the plot of The Gentleman.
Well, a investigative journalist who discovers a long tale about weed gangsters tries to blackmail one of the head gangsters, and he spends the entire movie telling the tale of the events of the past, I guess, couple of weeks or so of a conflict amongst rival gang members, only to find out that there's a lot of double cross and Guy Ritchie things happening.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie stuff and events occur.
But the entire framework is a conversation between two men, and that's the entire plot. Everything else is ancillary to the film. But overall, I mean, I'm a huge Guy Ritchie fan from back in the day with Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, even Revolver and Rock and Roll a little bit. Not quite Swept Away, but
not so much.
And I'm also a big fan of Guy Ritchie-like films,
Sure.
Smoking Aces, Layer Cake, things like that. And this was in a way, neither offensive nor a Guy Ritchie film.
Yes.
Not great, not bad. It's exactly like a middle of the road film. If you like it, you're going to like it. If you don't,
it's as entertaining as you probably expect it to be.
Yes.
No more and no less. I mean, I mostly agree. So I feel like you're probably going to give it a 2. I certainly am.
Probably.
Because, I mean, if you have any inclination or any previous experience with this kind of stuff, then you know what you're getting. You know, it says what it says on the tin by putting his name on the film. And yeah, it's funny that, maybe this will come in a little bit later, but it's almost like a meta framework narrative where one guy is literally basically describing the plot of a Guy Ritchie film within a Guy Ritchie film.
Actually, he's selling a movie.
Yeah, he's fucking even has a fucking script.
Film.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
so it's some funny meta commentary there.
That if I'm actually going to be critical, though, I'm going to say that perhaps the premise was stretched a little bit thin over time, or the framing device. And
I can see
anything, maybe less of the best part of this film would have made this film better, in a weird way of saying that, because I think it was the dialogue between the investigative journalist and the consigliere was part of the most engaging part, but I just think it was stretched a little too much and
didn't quite hold up the whole way through, you're saying?
It threatened to collapse. It never really did, but it threatened to.
Chris.
I didn't mind the framing device, but he ended it kind of exactly how I was afraid he was going to. I was afraid that it got meta at the end. They had a movie poster.
I mean, it was meta the whole way through.
What is it? Where's the remake he did that flopped with Armie Hammer and Henry Cavill?
I actually like that movie.
No, I'm just saying that it was one of his lesser films, and Hugh Grant's character Fletcher,
yes,
was doing a movie pitch, and I was afraid that we were going to do the thing where it was all a pitch.
Did you notice the Man from U.N.C.L.E. poster?
Yes,
that's exactly
at it.
But that's exactly what I was saying. It was there. So, on the one hand, the ending could have been worse, but on the other hand, I was kind of it's kind of face palming. I agree with you guys. I'm going to give it a 2, because as I said, the ending wasn't as trite as I thought it was, but it still is in the ballpark.
Sure.
And there was one part that it kind of bothered me when Charlie Hunnam's character was just like, oh, when I asked you to put your shoes outside in the patio, put a tracker in it. I'm like, you didn't really.
It felt some Ocean's 11 bullshit or something.
Yeah, it was totally like you didn't need that. All you need to do is I know this guy, and then you put somebody following him. That would have been a little more interesting.
I mean, they had both because he was like, I've been following you while you were following me. Like, remember?
But but to do it one more time is fine.
Actually, when he's in the
bushes
bush
behind the bushes,
with the disguise, and it turns out the guy's behind him.
Yeah.
It was a good get.
It was actually better.
But that's exactly why I thought the tracker was just kind of like lame.
Sure.
So before I just want to quickly respond to Chris. I feel kind of bad for it because this is obviously his attempt to get back to form, what he's known for. But he's also now stuck in the traps of the expectations for the Guy Ritchie film was going to be, and he ended it exactly like a Guy Ritchie film ends, for better and worse.
You know, I don't really mind. I don't really mind the way that it ended. I think that it could have been a little. I think that the script could have been a little bit tighter.
I would agree with that as well.
That would have. I think that would have helped a lot. Like my biggest. I'm probably gonna give it a 2 as well, because I have to give much credit to this type of like really intertwined script that Guy Ritchie is really good at writing and like directing, but there are the parts that are like, all right, here's all these intricate like set pieces that are like have to be moving all over the place and like, you know, interacting with each other at all times. We have to keep the timeline straight and all that stuff, and that's always really impressive what Guy Ritchie does with that. But then there's like the interpersonal interactions between characters, and I think that this one was one of his weaker movies in terms of
versus the others. Sure.
Right. And you know, the reason that Guy Ritchie films are always really impressive are because of those. Like there's just a bunch of moving pieces all going all over the place, but for the ones that I think are really good, you know, your Lock, Stock, your Snatch, it's because not only do the actors do a great job, he always gets great actors in his movies, but like not only do the actors do a great job, but the words written for them are also like really, you know, quick-witted and they get in and they get out, and this movie, there are a couple parts that seem to dawdle a little bit, and like I said, I just got to give it a point off for that. So I think that that being the case, I enjoyed the movie, but it's going to be a 2 for me on plot.
Yeah, I think that's 2s all around. Like mostly saying like it's fine enough, neither terrible nor great, and it's what you expect more or less from Guy Ritchie. All right, so how about this, Chris? Tell us about the themes of a Guy Ritchie film, specifically this one.
The themes are: if you're going to fuck somebody over with a double and triple cross, make sure there's somebody on your quadruple
I thought
flank.
you were going to say McConaughey style. You come for the king of the jungle, you best be ready. Whatever he fucking said.
I mean, the theme is a Guy Ritchie film. I mean, I know it sounds really lame, but I was thinking about this a lot.
But I get what you mean, because I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, but it's like what I said with the AFI about Scorsese. I mean, he's recognized for X, Y, and Z thing, but he's got such a large, lush thing, repertoire, and in some movies he really gets out so far, like Kundun and Hugo, where you're like, wow, this is a Scorsese film. It's like unrecognizable. But but Ritchie, like Beth and I are big defenders of King Arthur because I enjoyed that. But
why?
We enjoyed it. It was like something. It was something. No, but it was something different, and he tried something different. And whether he succeeded or not, so is up to you. But with this film, going back to form, it is kind of like it doesn't seem like it's kind of like the same thing. It's
you're saying it's like Scorsese's Irishman?
Yeah.
Going back to his gangster movie?
Yeah, except it's a better film. And a hell of a lot shorter.
Sure.
Very much shorter.
Okay.
I actually do have... and this captures a lot of what Guy Ritchie is interested in talking about, is the idea of power struggles, but also the fact that a lot of stuff comes up to random chance. That the idea of McConaughey's King of the Jungle, he's oftentimes saved by... like
happenstance
everyone
things.
in a sense has their own plots in here. They have their own motivations, and that's one of the things that's really difficult to balance. And those motivations crossing paths sometimes lead to tragedy, but sometimes lead to characters being saved who otherwise wouldn't be saved.
I That's a good point. But let me ask you this question because I probably should have asked it in plot. Did you guys think that McConaughey got killed in that first scene?
What do you mean, the first scene? When in the bar?
Yeah. When
I assumed it was going to flash.
I thought it was
back to
50-50.
So I know, I know that this was like the end of the movie, and it's a flashback. It goes from that scene to the flashback. Did you think that McConaughey was dead, or did you think he was alive?
I wasn't sure, and then about, I don't know, a quarter of the way into the film, I'm like, he's not dead.
Well, at first I thought, that's a bold move to do that. And, if you're going to tell a story featuring McConaughey, sort of like
I
Memento
was so hoping he was dead, but I knew that he wasn't.
Exactly.
Gonna
I was going to say.
I guess that's basically how I would answer that question as well. For a second, I thought, that's interesting. He's going to do it that way, and I was like, he probably won't, and didn't.
Well, I mean, I assumed that it was just going to be the. In fact, I actually think it's kind of a cop out that
cheap trick.
Because it was actually fairly good setup for a mystery.
Yeah.
We see. We get two things in that first scene: that someone he's on the phone with, there's another person in the room, and that someone kills him. What are the events leading up to this? And then they decide not to go with it. So,
they played it pretty safe there, sure. But I guess my question is all that a theme? I had zero for themes.
It's not, but I was going back to plot.
I'm right with you on that one.
Well, I had a whole thing about themes, but I'm not. It's gone now.
I feel like that it's part of the story, but it's not like the message. Like Guy Ritchie films, we have never had a message in this one.
Yeah, it
no
does.
exception
It has
to me.
to do with because of various motivations. And I think actually Revolver shows it quite a bit, that a lot of it comes up to random chance. And especially you're existing in where he's both playing with a structured narrative and trying to put this chaos of reality into it, where a player character that one character has never crossed paths with, you're just watching both of their plot lines collide eventually, and McConaughey would be dead if it wasn't for the coach's kids coming up,
the shrapnel coming out of it,
to kill him, but end up killing the people who were out to kill him.
Yeah.
So that is, I think, a lot of what Ritchie's interested in, creating these domino effect scenarios where watching these toys collide.
Yeah.
And the interesting repercussions that come out of that.
More so, I think it's interesting. Ritchie plays a little bit more with I was going to say something similar. Ritchie plays more with random chance than somebody like Soderbergh, right? Who does Ocean's 11 or Logan Lucky. Soderbergh's saying all right, this all seems random, or to the outside observer it seems random, or I'm going to make it to the audience seem random, but it's all been planned out in advance. Right. That type of movie. Whereas Guy Ritchie likes the this random chance, a lot of it is planned out, but this random chance throws a monkey wrench into things and changes things up, and then see what our characters do with that. And I like the way that goes. I'm not sure if that's entirely, if I'm on the side of that's theme or more style, but you do bring up a very good point with that, and I really like thinking about kind of the way that these movies, all of Ritchie's gangster type movies kind of work in terms of that, how he weaves all these character interactions. And I was gonna say, oh man, I completely forgot what I was gonna say for themes.
Well done.
But there's this kind of the idea of the king of the jungle has to, basically look big to maintain the status quo.
Well,
and
also, it's an illusion in the long run that it's just one bad apple in your organization who decides to kill you because he wants to take over, versus Matthew McConaughey had a very loyal guy in that position who wasn't greedy. So you never know, King of Jungle and
Fortune's
power
Rise
is an illusion.
it is, yeah.
I mean, that's a good theme. I don't know. It's not that you don't make a good point,
but I think that
to me
you
it is more
say
style.
it to all of his films. It's motif throughout everything.
I agree. It's a motif, and it's I guess to me it's more of a device than a thematic message.
I don't see how it's anything. I think you're wrapping up the idea that Guy Ritchie's a stylistic director with saying that he can't be.
I'm not saying he can't have
because
themes.
It's certainly a theme. It's certainly a message he's trying to come across, although it does it more stylistically than.
I don't know. I'm not again saying you're wrong or it's totally invalid. but to me, just not enough there. Like, I would give almost any Guy Ritchie film like sort of a 0 because it's, I think I agree with you, Steve-O, more of a stylistic move than a thematic message. Although I'm not saying, again, it's devoid of that angle by any means. I just think it's more superficial than most.
I cannot say it. It's superficial.
That's what I just said.
Don't hedge stuff.
I was trying to get to that point.
But yeah, I mean, I'm hesitant to give this a 1 as well. There are themes, I think. I'm not saying there's not, but I don't think that. I don't know. I think that he kind of loses some of the strength of the messaging that he's trying to do especially in this movie, in the wild stylistic flourishes, kind of. But I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
I like the idea of power as illusion, but I am definitely coming more on the side where I feel this is more style over substance thematically. I mean, like I said, it's not anything bad about this film, but this film is one of those things where I just I paid it. Like I said, I was really focused on seeing all the pieces get into place at the beginning because I knew it was going to be a lot of moving parts.
Sure.
So I maintained focus until the part where the guy got hit by the train, in which case I lost it. And I'm like, all right, I was able to laugh at the rest of this.
Okay.
But by the same token, it's a film that I just watched all the pieces and I watched all the pieces set up and then just kind of watched it happen.
So what does that mean your score is going to be?
I'm coming down at a 0.
Okay. And are you officially giving it a 1 as well?
I'm going to give it a 1 more so out of
Defiance?
Defiance, partly, but also because I think that if you pay attention a little bit, you can see...
Not too busy laughing at trains.
That he actually does tend to have deeper messages to his work.
Okay.
Steve-O, are you going to be a 0 as well? Or does that change?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with a
This is a soft 0 for me too. But...
I think. And again, I'm not saying that there's no message there. I just think that it's a little bit...
Like I said, shallower.
Blurry or something.
All right. Much like that answer. Well, in any case, why don't you tell us about the antagonist, which should be less blurry in this film?
Yeah,
Maybe that's random chance.
It is interesting. Like, there are several antagonists to McConaughey's protagonist throughout, but I think the main antagonist is Fletcher, Hugh Grant's character. He is the one kind of causing
He's the catalyst for all this.
Causing the problems from the current point out. Now, in the story that he's telling, there are other protagonists, or antagonists that is, that aren't him, because he's just an observer of that story. So it's tough to say. I think I'm going to split. I think I'm going to split duties, of course, between him and the what's his name, Matthew, the business partner,
Jeremy Strong.
Yeah.
Yes, the guy he's supposed to sell his weed empire to.
Right, who's literally trying to screw him over the entire course of the Fletcher story. And this is a tough one because I like Hugh Grant's character a whole lot, and I do not like Matthew Strong's character in this. I think that his acting is not terrific, and for lack of a better way to say it, but
not up to snuff.
Yeah, I mean, he just struck me as like kind of a wooden, like a lot of wooden delivery. I don't know, maybe it's the way that Guy Ritchie was directing him and told him to act like that, but it was like he felt like every part of his personality felt out of place for this film. So that said, I don't know. You guys talk.
Okay.
I think I'm coming from a different place than you, because I view the protagonist as Sam. Was it? Mm-hmm. Because really, the main narrative thrust is between Sam and
Ray. You're talking about Ray?
Ray, sorry.
Charlie
Hunnam.
Yeah, Ray and what's the name of the investigative journalist?
Fletcher.
Fletcher. Yeah.
That's the main narrative thrust there. Everything else is a story being told surrounding them, and if it's Ray versus Fletcher. That's an interesting dynamic there that I think that Fletcher and they're in a sense chess game between each other. And as you find out that it's actually more of a chess game than you think it is. Them each of them with multiple like plans and trying to outsmart each other. I think that actually works really well as a film. I think, as I mentioned earlier, it's the best part of the film.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
Yes. So, I think I'll give Fletcher a 1 as the antagonist of Ray. Like I said, I'm coming from a different viewpoint than you are.
I am. Well, I'll let everybody else go.
Okay, good. Why don't you go, Chris?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this since I left the theater, because I found Fletcher and Ray definitely to be the heart of this film, but I love the way their roles switch between protagonist and antagonist. So I think there's an argument to kind of be made that both of these guys serve a dual function. Mm-hmm. I really, honest to God, do, and I feel like I'm giving away the next one. Like I said, I feel like this film is really well constructed, and I think the strongest things about this film are the richness of the characters, and the strongest, without question, the two strongest characters were Fletcher and Ray. And sure. What you saying about them playing this chess game was right on the money. Mm-hmm. And so, as with any chess game, there's move, counter move, check. So I'm definitely going to say, I'm probably going to give a spoiler away but I'm going to say that both of these act as an antagonist and both of these guys act as a protagonist, because they are the framing device of the movie.
Like the coin, if you will. They can.
Yeah. So I'm definitely giving it a very, very strong 1.
All right. Well, I'm mostly like an ease angle. Like, yeah, like there's for sure the heart, like metally and within the story, the framing device, right? So it's basically their story and everything is like the description of what's happening. And then, yeah, of course, they're like trying to like, well, I've been watching you, watching me, et cetera. Like that shit, right? And then, but it's sort of like even further than that, where about halfway through, when Fletcher reveals like, and by also, I've sold your boss out to the Russian guy, right? So now he's like another layer of antagonist beyond that. So yeah, I cut it up that way quite a bit. Like it seemed pretty obvious to me. And I loved Hugh Grant's performance in this. It was fucking amazing. And he did a good job of pushing everyone's buttons. He thinks he's in control. But then Charlie Hunnam, Ray as Ray.
The Russians are in control.
Fuck.
Well, the Russians are like happenstance too. Like to your point, like he accidentally kills a kid. Like
so. I apologize. There's
Greg Davies looking motherfucker.
In Game of Shadows, the Sherlock Holmes, there's a ridiculous scene at the end where Moriarty and Sherlock are playing chess, and then they get up and start just talking the chess moves out to each other. And it's dumb and fun at the same time, but this is a similar situation of like, I was playing 3D chess, I was playing 4D chess the entire time. That's what it felt like. Yeah, very similar
really
situation.
Funny, but I agree.
Shit.
I wouldn't even be surprised if that was like kind of a tip of the hat to that, type of thing.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm giving it a 1 on that front, mostly for that angle, as well as like the possible layers beyond it.
Let me ask you guys this: do you see McConaughey as a protagonist?
I don't even know what McConaughey's character is, because we're dealing with unreliable narrative.
It's a story within a story. Yeah, exactly.
You see scenes that don't happen.
That's true. That does happen. I mean, in the movie, that the not happening does happen.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, so no, you don't.
No, I don't.
You see him.
Yes.
I mean, I can get behind that.
He's a supporting character.
And that being the case,
in his own story. It's like Mad Max.
And that being the case, yeah, I mean, I have to give Hugh Grant a 1 for this performance. He does a great job, and like the character's written awesomely.
Think of it this way: he comes there to blackmail Ray, who is the main character to me, and then of course tries to fuck.
Well, he comes to blackmail. What's his name? Mickey, but but he he knows the way to get to him is through Ray.
Exactly, and it's Ray and there's like story and they're like contests with each other.
Wait, 2 quick questions.
I do want to get that barbecue that Ray has in his backyard.
Cool. Yeah,
oh, seriously? Without question.
All right. Well, you're dying to say something. Chris,
yeah, I'm dying to say something. I just want to know if I have permission to use the word most commonly used in this film. It begins with a C.
I wouldn't.
Okay. Okay.
It has to be in context.
Ian? You C word, because you know what? Because I'm saying that these two...
cheeky C.
Hold on a second. I'm saying that these two are both the protagonist and antagonist. It's a chess game, and we're talking about two unreliable narrators by definition, I have to come on your side of this goddamn being a power is an illusion. Bastard. Give me God damn it. I've got to give themes a 1 now.
Did you just call me a runt with a capital C?
Yep.
I called you a runt with a capital C.
You're giving antagonist a 1 and changing themes to a 1 as well.
Now I have to.
Okay.
Now I have to, because if I don't, I'm going to be a bloody hypocrite.
All right. Take it easy.
You start using all kinds of British slang now.
Yeah, well, they use the C word all the time in this film. It's just kind
going double bubble then is what you're saying.
but the thing is, because of the way I view antagonists and protagonists and what Ian added to it, I realized that if I give themes a 0 at this point, then it does not back up my argument.
Okay.
So, nice work, E.
He double-crossed you, changed your plans.
See? Keeping in the theme of the movie.
Yes.
Damn.
All right. Well, that's one's all around then for Antag, and I'm going to move on to Protag. So, yeah, as we, again, I view, it seems obvious to me that Ray, or Charlie Hunnam / Ray, is the thrust of the narrative force, if you will, like the focus of it, and then he's being told like a story or a blackmail or a script that Fletcher has written, right? so like that, I think grounds him to me. But then, yeah, of course, like then as you get the story of McConaughey's rise to power, of Mickey's history and stuff, then cuts the scenes of him. So I think you can sort of cut up both. I'm definitely giving it to Ray for sure. But when the narrative and storytelling switches to Mickey's point of view, or at least descriptions of his actions, whether real or actual happenings or not, like I still think it works there too. So he's like sort of lives in this weird zone between half protagonist and half secondary, depending on what point of the movie it is. But Charlie Hunnam, for sure, as the opposite coin of Hugh Grant's Fletcher, yeah. One's on both kind of fronts for me.
Objection. Good. I am citing Nocturnal Animals versus the Lost Signals on how we dealt with embedded stories.
All right. Well, I'm still giving Charlie a 1, or Ray a 1 anyways.
I'm giving plot.
That's fair.
I'm giving plot.
It's a good objection. Objection sustained.
Because back there we were doing things. So it's like, I give middle a 2.
What's wrong?
I give middle a 2. Ian, no you're not, and here's why.
Chris brings that up because it's legendary in his mind, and that's a fair point.
I played it. I was editing that show, and I played it back like 5 times.
All right. So
either way, I'm still giving Ray / Charlie Hunnam a 1 for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
if nothing else, he's definitely at least again to me, the main protag.
Right. I agree. However, it's interesting because if you think about it, Ray doesn't really do much of anything in
yes, of course
the
he
part
does.
of the in the part of the story where he's fucking listening to a story. That's it. And all the other stuff is like possibly inaccurate. Like all the things that he does in this movie, like all he does is listen to a story, and he's the protagonist. I mean, I'm not taking that away from him. I think he is the protagonist, but like doesn't really.
Until it catches up to present time, and then
but they're both unreliable. But the thing is, they are both unreliable narratives.
But he's not the one telling the story. So he's just listening to a story. That's his whole thing, and he's the protagonist, of this, right?
You're right. Yeah.
Like he says, like I don't know, 10 lines outside of like Hugh Grant's the one talking the entire time. All of Charlie Hunnam, like Ray's lines, are in
the story of the story.
In Fletcher's story, which is a really interesting thought about it. I don't know. Like I kind of want to go back and think about that more later on. But in the meantime, I still love Charlie Hunnam's character. I think he does a great job with those 10 lines or whatever, and then all the rest of his stuff in the actual flashbacks.
However accurate or not.
Yeah. And I'm going to give him a pretty strong 1.
All right. Oh, sorry. Why are our pens dying today in the studio?
I don't know. But overall, I think that depending on where you want to think the story is actually happening. If it's happening in the pitch meeting with the,
at Miramax,
it's also true.
Then who knows who does anything in this? But assuming that the conversation between them and the fact that it gets more layered as the fact that I was one step ahead of you the entire time. I was letting you tell me this tale while we were hunting down where your
baiting you.
Insurance was. Overall, I thought he did a great job.
And the one thing about adding to the because I already answered my question. I'm giving this one. What I liked about in order to reinforce like that neither narrative could be completely 100% accurate was when I think it was Fletcher's characters filming him at the football match.
Yeah.
and the person stands up in front of them and they can't read their lips. So they have to kind of extrapolate it, and then you get the full conversation later. So it's just like,
it's classic Guy Ritchie
but
shit.
yeah, but the thing is, there is that whole, that is one thing I do like about it, because really the truth is in there somewhere.
Sure.
So.
All right, so that's ones all around for pro tag. And E, why don't you go on with secondary?
This is tough for me because, Steve-O, you made a really good point precast about the limits of Matthew McConaughey.
Could be its own title.
And I'm going to allow you to expand upon that.
Sure.
But beforehand, one of the problems is that I'm judging this against other Guy Ritchie films. And I think that, in general, Guy Ritchie tends to excel at making a robust and interesting world around him. Whether they're doing like Boris the Blade or Bricktop or any of these kind of characters, almost like Dick Tracy film from back in the day, like those kind of memorable villains that were there. This one, I felt that the secondary characters were less memorable, and with the kind of inconsistencies that actually you pointed out, I think I might have to give this a 0.
That's interesting.
Why don't you follow that up?
That's interesting. I was going to this probably giving it a 1, but also like I hadn't really given much thought to the protagonist antagonist thing before we got into this podcast, and now my shit's all fucking upside down.
Shit, yeah.
But
Plans going awry.
as far as what we were talking about with McConaughey, I was basically just saying he feels kind of out of place in this movie. He feels like an American trying to play an American in a British movie, and just, I don't know, he just seems off. And on top of that, what is his name? Matthew, Jeremy Strong's character.
Yeah, you mentioned.
I know I said this already, but he never clicked for me. Never was like that, he was supposed to be another American, and he felt like a British guy playing an American in a movie almost. But like, those two characters are the two main characters of the story that Fletcher is telling, and I wasn't super impressed with either. Well, I thought McConaughey did a fine acting job. I just think he was like out of place in this film.
If I can to agree with you on this, that Guy Ritchie has a certain, especially to his early films, a certain pace to how his characters act, and McConaughey has a pace to how he acts, and they don't work together,
match,
right?
Yeah.
Because McConaughey slows down. He's that's why he plays those roles very well, but that doesn't mesh with the rapid fire dialogue of Guy Ritchie films.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I agree with you on Matthew McConaughey's character and Jeremy, what's his name? Strong's character. They were just kind of there. I mean, honestly, they were. I mean, they were just kind of plot. I mean, honestly, they were plot devices in this film. I mean, the real action. But my case for supporting character is Coach and his boys.
Colin Farrell.
Because, and this is why. I mean, not just because I thought they were amusing, but because they actually served an integral part of solving the crisis, for lack of a better word, that they were in. It's not like they were just window dressing. Like every bit, the story is telling the story of Mikey and
Mickey
and
Michael,
Matthew.
They change them up though.
What is it? What's the
Dry
Eye and all that stuff. But the supporting characters that actually really had an effect, given the Fletcher Ray duality dynamic, thank you, was Coach and his boys. That I'm gonna say, because I agree with you on everything else, but that's the one sticking point with me. I'm like, I did like them a lot, and they actually did serve a function at the end.
You're right, and Colin Farrell did a phenomenal job playing this. That was the most
Guy Ritchie.
That's what I expected.
That was a Guy Ritchie
all
character.
Of his characters, and makes it worse in the long run because you can he has that ability to craft those characters, and he failed on all the other ends of it.
I think that's exactly right. So like I just wrote myself a note, and it was basically for this movie to be a really good Guy Ritchie movie, all it needs are those two characters to be great, and they just weren't. McConaughey and Jeremy Strong. And if those two characters are great, this movie is amazing.
Mhm.
But they just weren't written great, and they weren't acting great. Like, they I'm sure they did all they could with what they had, but like it wasn't. The styles didn't match.
I could see McConaughey phoning this one in.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to excuse Guy Ritchie because I'm kind of fanboying out here, and that's not my intent. I'm just saying that, like, I don't know, because the dialogue was, or we're going to get to that eventually, but
well, I somewhat disagree and agree to certain points. Now, of course, it's inevitable to compare this to any other Guy Ritchie film previously, and I'm no way I'm going to make the argument that it's equal or certainly not better than them. But I think I dislike McConaughey the least. His performance and or his character, however, like whatever overlap of how Guy Ritchie wanted him to play it and how he ended up actually playing it. Now, I see what you mean. Some parts to me were still did some scenes, but not all. I think Colin Farrell was the best side character, for sure. But I do agree that Matthew Berger, or Jeremy Strong's character, Matthew Berger, was okay at best. He was all right. I thought Coach's crew was fine. Again, Chris, like, yes, it was nice and interesting that they sort of kind of matched well. We didn't even mention, like, the Hugh Grant's editor guy, who was, like, again, all right. He was fine. He was there, sure. But I think, like, overall, I'm going to give it an okay, softish 1, but not a 0. Certainly there were many better side characters in other previous Guy Ritchie films. But I think what was here was good enough, at least for me, but certainly weaker compared to previous ones.
although I do appreciate his editor pulled Dave Cameron.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, and little funny things there. So good enough for a 1, just
can't unsee that.
Yeah, not quite. Yeah, they ripped off Black Mirror as well with that shit.
Ripped off real life.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna stick with a 0 on this.
And Chris, are you giving secondary 1?
Yeah, I kind of have to.
Right.
Like I said, I was kind of...
we'll split down the middle. Yep, it's 1's for me and Chris and 0's for you guys. And right, and that'll bring keep talking about talking, Chris, with dialogue.
The dialogue.
You C word.
Yeah, my C word. I really like the use of the C word. Somehow it's no, seriously.
It's the British use of it.
Yeah, but it's the British use of it, and somehow it was elevated in this. But it's one of these things where I'm having a really hard time because I'm definitely one of the ones that I'm trying to gauge a film on its own. And again, when you're talking to somebody like Guy Ritchie or Scorsese or Jarmusch or Tarantino, it's not, even though Scorsese doesn't write his dialogue, there's a distinct dialogue to it. There's like, there's regular dialogue and then there's Ritchie dialogue.
Sure.
And I really had walked into this thinking you guys are going to give themes a 0. So I kind of want to be like, okay, it's good Guy Ritchie dialogue, but there was a couple funny lines, but it was Guy Ritchie dialogue. Cause I don't think this is a 10 film. And narratively,
you're not giving it a 10 anyways, even if you...
No. I'm kind of doing one of those things where I'm giving it a higher score than I thought I was. And do I knock off parts of this? Because the film is so well constructed, I can't, not spoiling style, but I'm going to spoil style. For me, is it's like, I can't dock it from there, but do I dock it from dialogue? So I'll hand it off to you guys.
All right. I mean, yes, like, of course, the funny joke is any of us would say, it's Guy Ritchie dialogue. And yes, it certainly is that. Now, again... And unavoidably, you reflect back upon the previous films or Guy Ritchie-esque even ones, right? Mm-hmm. I still think I found myself chuckling quite a bit at the jokes, and I like even though it wasn't like maybe your traditional, in quotes, Steve, like rapid fire back and forth, there was some of that between some characters. And I think, like, again, it kept itself afloat pretty damn well, even if it wasn't like Ritchie at the 100% peak top of his game. I still think it's more solid enough, and I'm going to end up giving a solid 1.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I'm going to probably also give it a 1. I don't have too much to say. It's a standard Guy Ritchie pattern.
Like if it sucked, we'd be like, wow, Guy Ritchie really lost it in dialogue, but I don't think that is the case.
Yeah, no, I think that the dialogue worked mostly fine. There were a couple, like, maybe
but
not a great choice of,
I feel like those are few and
like,
far between.
Yeah, but overall, it wasn't like cringeworthy, really. I didn't think at any point, and yeah, it was good. It was good dialogue for the most part. Like I said, a couple of points there were deliveries that bugged me, but
sure.
I wouldn't hold that against the script. I don't think.
Right.
And that's it.
You got any?
I very much like, especially the early meta humor.
yeah, good point.
I mean,
True.
that combines with style a little bit. I think he can still craft a joke. He can still craft a witty rapport between characters. So yeah, it's gonna be a 1.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a
Does that
1
leave you,
because
Chris? 1? Okay.
the whole chess game between Fletcher and Ray. I mean, that's all dialogue and stuff. So I mean, I really have to give I have to give credit where credit is due and be objective narratively. Even though I'm giving it a higher score than I thought I was going to, it would be as dishonest it would be to give at this point themes 0. It would be dishonest for me to give this a 0. So I'm giving this a 1.
All right, so it's 1s all around. And Steve-O, speaking of that, like Chris mentioned, why don't you talk about this style?
It's a Guy Ritchie movie.
Yeah, I know you keep saying that, but it's also kind of unavoidable as well. Like I said,
you've seen a Guy Ritchie movie, you know what it's going to look like, and it looks good. Like it just is stylish as hell, and quick cuts, and you get a lot of interesting music choices and things like that. And yeah, I mean, style is really good on this flick. If you like Guy Ritchie's style, you're going to like it. Stylistically, anyway.
I'll say this. Yes, of course, I agree with that as a sort of fundamental, groundwork statement, but also via the fact that it had some meta stuff, right? So as Hugh Grant is telling his story, as if he were describing how to do a film, he's like, now we smash cut to, and the film literally smash cuts to whatever he said. So I thought it was a nice little kind of meta touch, maybe Guy Ritchie having a little fun with himself, not taking himself too seriously.
Well,
so
it's all him moments. Telling the story to the guy he's selling the movie to.
That's why it's kind of funny, and it works. So everything else now. I'll also say I felt like he sort of toned down a bit, at least the ultra violence in a sense that you know him for. Yes, there was violence in this film for sure, but it wasn't as over the top or as bombastic, I guess, as previously. And I felt that was actually fine. I don't
makes jokes about that too.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So again, felt he was sort of giving prodding himself a little bit. Not taking himself seriously. Winks and nods to his fans and audiences who are familiar with his work.
Right. That's the whole thing where he's he has McConaughey shoot the guy in the face. He's like, hey, that's not his style.
Except Michael didn't do that or whatever. Yeah. So it's solid enough. And if we came to this being yo, Guy Ritchie, we're giving him a 0 in style, that would be a very, very bad sign. But I think it's
swept away.
Yeah, it's still perfectly fine.
He dresses his characters amazingly.
Seriously.
True. Costume was awesome.
McConaughey was wearing some suits that I plan to go out and get.
Right on.
And also,
I love Colin Farrell's get-ups.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, the tweed tracksuits. Those were amazing.
Him and all of his boys.
And then McConaughey's wife also has some fantastic dresses. I mean, overall, it's such a weird style, almost. He does a great job of taking the past stylings, but making them modern.
Modernized,
it worked quite well for me.
Yep, good point.
It was funny because when Dry was sitting there, was lying on the couch talking to...
you notice his slippers or whatever?
Yeah. Rich leans over and he goes, I could see you rocking those.
You could be in a Guy Ritchie film, Chris,
seriously.
as a Guy Ritchie character.
And to be quite honest with you, were it just the Ritchie-isms without the Fletcher and Ray style framing device, I would probably fall on this a softer 0. But I can't. Once again, those two, what they added to it, and then adding to, what I said before about Colin Farrell's character into it, and plus, absolutely, Ian, I was noticing the wardrobe from beginning to end, and I totally want most of McConaughey's wardrobe. I definitely wanted tweed tracksuit.
I bet you McConaughey's I'm taking this stuff home when I'm done this movie.
I totally would. So
if it didn't come right out of his own closet.
He's like, you know what? I got something on trailer for this one.
And some of the original music, I especially liked the music they were using when Charlie Hunnam chases the kid in with his phone.
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck this. He takes out the machine gun with the silencer. The music for that part, I strongly noticed. So yeah, I really have to give this one.
Yeah.
I think style, of course, he's pretty much known for that, the most, I think, and this one's no exception. All right, 1's all around. That'll bring me home to recommendation. I would say, sure, actually, a more enthusiastic sure, right? Not sure, you know what, gentlemen, it's pretty solid, right? Don't expect another, Snatch or Lock, Stock or anything, but do expect a solid, entertaining little romp through the gangster territory that he's known for, and some, maybe your mileage may vary, but for the most part, solid performances and some good stuff in there. So yeah, it's a good little hour, and I don't know, Chris, what is it, 147 something? It's less than 2 hours. So yeah,
Yeah.
good little romp, and
Just under 2.
still pretty enjoyable. So I would say, yeah, I'd give it a 1.
If you like Guy Ritchie, go see it. If you don't, it's, I think, still enjoyable. The heavy British dialogues at times, I watch a lot of British television, so I had no problem.
Yeah, they might be off-putting,
brought
but
it up.
probably not.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys didn't bring it up, so
Yeah.
I don't think it's that much of a problem. I just think it's fun.
Exactly.
If you could see one film in the theater thus far this year, go see Gretel and Hansel. But that does not
Oh,
diminish
nice.
the fact that this is an enjoyable film. I mean, like I said, it'd be something where if I didn't catch it in the film, I'd be very happy to see it at
Fair
home.
enough.
But either way, if somebody said, "Hey, should I check it out?" I would definitely say yes, check this movie out. And I'd say that would definitely fall into the one category.
All right.
But see
and-
Gretel and Hansel.
Thanks. By the way, we're not getting paid by Gretel and Hansel at all.
Strong recommendation. Go see another movie. Yeah, I mean,
But also see this one if you
It's
feel
a dual,
like it.
It's a dual recommendation.
Okay.
if you want to wait until it comes out on TV. But no, I agree. I think it's a good flick. Give it a watch. If you like Guy Ritchie, you'll like it. If you don't, as Ian said, you might still like it, or probably not. Probably not. If you absolutely don't like Guy Ritchie, don't watch it because it's a very Guy Ritchie like film.
I mean,
Not his best.
It's shot exactly like a Guy Ritchie film because he is Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, but it feels like it's like a Guy Ritchie movie and not a Guy Ritchie movie.
I see. I mean, you're like, if you didn't know, you're like, oh, it's Guy Ritchie-esque. And you're like, oh, shit, it actually was him.
Is this the same guy that did Layer Cake?
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
But you still would recommend it?
Yeah, I would recommend it. Check it out. It's a good flick. And yeah, that's it. 1 for me.
I think Guy Ritchie could use the work.
Sure.
So,
He needs a paycheck or two. But sure. All right. So that'll...
Madonna bled him dry.
Yeah.
She's
Someone's
known
trying to
for
undercut
that.
his business somehow, like getting sabotaged. But yeah, I think that will do it. We're all recommending it, so we'll give out the final scores unless you guys have any other final thoughts or things you wanted to say or missed. All right. So, Chris, you've given it the highest score with a 9 because Ian convinced you to switch on themes. A solid job there. Ian and I have agreed upon an 8, and Steve a little bit below that with a 7, which gives an 8 overall. Which, yeah, I feel
Okay,
like
that works
strong.
because
It's fine.
between you and me, we gave it my 8.
I feel like I've been the miserable bastard lately.
Yeah, you're switching roles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just hating on films.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gentleman, 8 overall. Guy Ritchie still solid enough, and I think that'll do it. I have to go commit some crimes and or sell out my drug empire. Later tonight, I've been Scott Thurlow, here with Jonathan Ian Manzer.
all right, cunt.
Nice. Snuck it in there. And Chris Morgan.
Fuck, you took my line. Where's the bourbon?
All right. And Stephen Amosi.
Cheerio.
And we'll see you next time, mate.
Editing and engineering by Christopher Morgan. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or mods?